आत्मा मयि शुद्धन्तं ज्योतिरहं विरजामि पाप्मा भूयासम् अंतरात्मा मयि शुद्धन्तं ज्योतिरहं विरजामि पाप्मा भूयासम् परमात्मा मयि शुद्धन्तं ज्योतिरहं विरजामि पाप्मा भूयासम् ओम शांति शांति शांति. May my body become pure. May I be free from impurities and ignorance. May I realize myself as the light divine. May my mind become pure. May I be free from impurities and ignorance. May I realize myself as the light divine. May my soul become pure. May I be free from impurities and ignorance. May I realize myself as the light divine. Om peace, peace, peace be unto all. Friends, we are extremely happy that Swami Swananda, ex-head of the Vedanta Society Berkeley, stopped at our place for a couple of nights on his way back to India. Swami worked in many capacities in several centers in the Ramakrishna Order in India. He was in the headquarters in Belur Math, and then he was in Rangoon for 8 years. So Swami will give a talk tonight on the message of the Bhagavad Gita. Generally, the monks feel embarrassed if you praise the monks, so I am not going to say too many words about him to you. Only I say a few words. The Swami was quite knowledgeable in our Vedic literature, and he is a very good monk, and he will tell us tonight on the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you.
Friends, I have been asked to speak to you this evening on the message of the Bhagavad Gita. You have been studying the Gita every Tuesday night, and probably you have been studying for a pretty long time. Even when Swami Satprakashanandaji was alive, you must have been studying at that time. Now you are studying under his successor, Swami Chetanananda. Well, it is a great book. I would not spend much time in praising the book, rather go into it straight and try to place before you what I think is the central message of the Bhagavad Gita. There are many things which will remain unsaid. I have to be selective in presenting my understanding of the message of Sri Krishna of the Gita. This book has certain unique characteristics. One is the setting in which this is presented. I don't think there is another scripture in world religious literature where battlefield has been chosen as a place to deliver a message about our spiritual life. Most unlikely place to choose. But that is what the author of this message Sri Krishna chose, I think it is very significant. Where else do you need a message than in the battle of life? When you are here, you have to go through this life. You have to face unnumbered problems, hardships, struggles, sufferings. All these are inevitable fact of life. No mortal can escape from them. And I believe that is why Sri Krishna chose, of all places, the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where two opposing armies are pitted against each other to fight. Well, even if you take it as an allegorical expression of the fight going on in the heart of men, fight between evil and good, even then it is significant, you see. It points out to us one important thing. If you want really to grow in spiritual life, you have to face struggles. You have to face problems. No way of your growth, no way of your reaching the goal unless you meet the problems squarely. No sidetracking the problems. And that requires tremendous strength. So if you think yourself to be weak, and if you think, well, how to bear this hard burden of life, then better don't enter the Bhagavad Gita. It is not meant for you then. Arjuna showed his faint-heartedness. Sri Krishna immediately told that unless you have strength, courage, boldness, the spirit of adventure in you, well, you will not succeed in your spiritual life. Upanishad says, Nayam atma balahinena labhya. A person who seeks self-knowledge will never reach it unless he is strong, bold, courageous. In the Gita, Sri Krishna actually chastised Arjuna. Kulaibam asmagama partha. Naitad tai upapaddate. Shudram ridadorballam. Taktotishtha parantapa. This verse in the Gita was so dear to Swami Virajanandaji because it speaks of strength. Don't yield to unmanliness. Don't be faint-hearted. These are the words used by Sri Krishna to Arjuna, his dear friend. He did not mince words. Well, many of us do. Well, we want to even flatter our devotees and say, well, it will be quite easy and he will do it. Well, sometimes it is good to encourage one that way, but it is also sometimes good to point out to the difficulties so that you know what problems are ahead of you. No problem is insoluble. If you have courage in your heart, if you have the wisdom to tackle it, surely you will overcome it. So that is a very significant thing, that Sri Krishna delivered his message in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. It is a battlefield. And really, if you mean business of your spiritual growth, be ready to face it. More you face, you will find more strength from within you coming up. Instead of praying to the Lord, oh Lord, take away all my problems, take away all my obstacles, Rather pray, O Lord, problems, obstacles, hurdles are way of life. By these things you try to test us. So my prayer is not to remove all those, but to give me the strength so that I can face them squarely. So I think choosing the battlefield is very significant. Then you will find Arjuna is placing his problem to Sri Krishna. Problems come in our life. No one is free from problems. Well, often we think, oh, how wonderful life would have been if there were no problems. I don't think that is really true. If there were no problems, what would you be doing? If there is no problem, really you will go and create some problem because you have no problem. It's very true. Our whole system is built such a way that you cannot but be doing something or other. When I speak of a little of karma yoga, which is a very important part of the teachings of the Gita, Sri Krishna says there, nobody can exist even for a moment without karma. So we have to face problems. And we learn certain or hear certain words of wisdoms. A sentence picked up from here, a sentence picked up from there, and by that we begin to think, I have become somewhat wise, and then try to speak in terms of what is the ultimate reality and how we adjust to the ultimate reality, things like that. What words we use, what our thoughts are there is no conformities. Sri Krishna chastises Arjuna here again. The verse which speaks of this, Ashochan annashochastam prajna badangsha bhashase. The word prajna is used. It's a very significant word. Means wisdom, not mere learning. Learning is something you acquire, but wisdom is something which is inherent in you, waiting to be manifested. We never really learn wisdom. It is already there. If we live your life, if we live a life which is completely under our control, then this wisdom comes. Well, learning can go with wisdom, but wisdom does not necessarily mean learning. So, you are speaking like a wise person, but your behavior, your conduct do not seem to conform to what you speak. I think this is a very significant thing which Sri Krishna told. Examine yourself, and you will find our whole life goes on more or less in that fashion. We speak high words. Our life speaks quite different from what we speak. It is very easy, you see. I can quote many verses from the Gita, from the Upanishads. I may memorize the whole book, but my life may go just in a different way. So it is very important if you speak. Well, we say, Lord alone is real. Self alone is real. Self is unborn and die. But how do we really behave in our day-to-day life? Do we really behave and have our conduct where you can say you are acting and behaving from that understanding where self alone is real? Well, you may say, well, I have not yet reached that state. I'm struggling for that state. Often we do not really struggle. We go under the illusion and take that which is not real as real. You may fool the world, but you cannot fool yourself. Self-deception is the worst thing which can happen in spiritual life. So be very sure what goal you set before you and what method you choose to reach that goal. You try to follow with the best of your intention. Difficulties will come, problems will come, but go ahead, relentlessly putting forth all your energy, all your thought, and I'm sure the God within you will come to your help. God helps those who help themselves. It is very true in spiritual life. God does not send you help from somewhere in high heaven. He is the indwelling spirit in you. From there, He will provide you the strength. He is the reservoir within us from where every courage, strength comes up. It is we who block the passage. When we are honest and sincere, you will find that blockage is removed. So divine strength automatically follows. There is a saying, I don't know what is the origin, maybe Islamic or some other origin. If you walk one step towards the Lord, He will run 10 steps towards you. You walk one step. He runs, not walks, runs 10 steps towards you. And that is what happens. So that is a very significant thing I myself feel in the Bhagavad Gita. Find out the resources of the strength within you. Get yourself fully equipped for this battle of life. We do it ordinarily in our day-to-day life. You want to go for a profession, you acquire the skill for that profession. You go take classes and learn it, qualify yourself, and then you go for search of your job. And we can go in search of God, in search of the reality, without being qualified whatsoever. Well, God will do everything for us. His grace will save us. If His grace will save you here, why not He will save you in all other areas? Why don't you give the other areas also to Him? That you don't. It is sheer idleness within us, sheer tamas, which makes us to depend on God. This is not real surrender. Surrender comes from a higher state, not from this state. Now one thing is very important, you see. Why do you want to read the Bhagavad Gita, and why are you reading really? Oh, we say it is a scripture of our tradition. That is why I study. It's good that you should study the scripture of your own tradition. But what is the object of your study? You must have some idea why you want to study it. Then that means you want to find out from the scriptures what is the purpose and goal of your life. If any scripture does not speak of our purpose in life, goal in our life, and also the way to that goal, it's better to be thrown away. It is not worth calling a scripture. So when we study any scripture, call it Bible, call it Quran, call it Gita, call it Upanishads, it is that what we want to find out in this book. Not merely find out and keep quiet afterwards. When I have found out, intellectually, emotionally, then what I want to do? I want to follow the path which will lead me to that goal. And Bhagavad Gita is a complete book in that respect. Those of you who have studied the Gita would know at the end of every chapter there is what they call a colophon. iti Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Sambade. Then name of the chapter is, then that's the end of that chapter. Now a few things are told in this colophon. This is not really part of the Gita. At some time in its growth, this has been added. But this is not really a part of the Gita. It says, Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishatsu. Gita, as you know, is a part of the Mahabharata. And Mahabharata is what is known as Smriti text, not a revealed text. The revealed text is what we in our tradition call the Vedas, and Upanishads being part of the Vedas. But here it is told, though Gita is not considered normally a revealed text, it has the authority of the revealed text. Not only the authority, I should say, Gita is the quintessence of the Upanishads. If you want to find out what is the cream of the Upanishad, it is Gita. That is why it is said Upanishatsu, compared to the Upanishad. Then, two things are necessary for us. What is the purpose or meaning of life? Our experiences are of this relative empirical world, universe. We do not know if there is a reality beyond or transcendent. If you know, then you don't have to read the Gita. There is no need. You already know what Gita is going to tell you. But if you do not know, Gita is going to tell you of the reality which is behind this phenomenal existence, behind this empirical existence. Here, in this universe, everything is subject to change. There is nothing unchanging. Nothing whatsoever which is unchanging. Look around and you will find there is nothing unchanging. Change is the very law of life. And if it is so, we get scared. We begin to ask, then why I am here? I was born on a certain date, I live for a few years, and then I pass away out of existence. What is the purpose of this? Is there any meaning of my birth, of my existence, of my disappearing? This question any sensible person should ask. If you don't ask, if someone will at least be able to take you to this Gita, and if you read, you will begin to ask. Gita will point out to you to something which is beyond change. And that is here told as Brahma Vidyayam. That means Gita teaches you about the knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of God, or knowledge of the self. Atma Vidya. Atman is the self. That necessarily will raise some question. What is this God you are speaking about? We do not know the existence of God or anything. All we know is what our senses present to us, this phenomenal existence. We know one thing is very sure. I know I exist. No one can challenge me about my existence. Well, suppose I doubt my own existence. I begin to think, well, do I really exist? Suppose I begin to doubt. That doubting person itself will prove my existence, because there is someone to doubt. So we are sure of our existences, but we are not sure what my existence means. To what in you are you referring as your existence? If you refer to your body, are you sure that body is existing? Is not the body undergoing constant change? You are born a tiny baby. Now you have grown to be probably an old person, waiting for the final call. Who is that existence, or which is that existence to which you are referring? So probably there is something which does not change. Is there? Surely body cannot be that. Nor the mind. Mind changes more often than the body. And then what about this existence outside? The existence to which we are open through our senses. What we call sense world. That also is changing. So that puts us into a very insecure situation. We feel we are lost. There is no firm ground on which we can stand. Impermanence. There is nothing permanent. There is nothing eternal. That frightens us. Well, I don't know, really, if every one of us are frightened. If every one of us is frightened, probably things would have been much better. We would have gone in search of the eternal unchanging. Most of us take it for granted. This is how the world is. So long you are here, eat, drink, and be merry. That is the end of life. But not all people are like that. Normally when things go on all right, you don't face very many problems, very many tragedies of life. The world seems to be really kingdom of heaven on earth. But when things fall apart, then you begin to question, well, what's the matter? What's the wrong? What have I done to deserve this? All these questions come to our mind, and we want a solution. Well, book cannot give you a solution, mind you. Book can give you a pointer. It will say, if you do this and try to proceed this way, you may find the solution. You have to find your own solution. Reading books will not bring solution. It has never brought, at no time it will bring. Each person has to find out solution for himself or herself. Search has to begin. So your real spiritual life or religious life begins when you have this query within you. Why am I here? I see everything is changing. Am I also part of this change? Or is there anything in me which is not subject to change? I know I exist, but what is that existence? It is not Swami Swananda, 5 feet 6 inches tall, from India, who is here now. Tomorrow he will be in the grave. It is not that existence I am seeking. Is there a kind of unchanging absolute existence? All these existence which we are referring to are what we call relative existence. We exist, body also exists. If you say, I am the pure self, I am not the body, does not mean body simply evaporates and it is not there. It is there, very much there. It means only body is subject to change. Your true being is unchanging. Now Gita comes and tells this. Arjuna brought a very simple problem, not really simple anyway, a problem, a crisis of his life, which pertains to our day-to-day life. And see the strangeness of the Gita. Gita does not directly reply to his problem. Immediately brings in the question of the self, Atman. You will be bewildered. Why should Krishna suddenly jump to self? What does it mean really? It means our day-to-day life, even the tiniest incident in our life, has no meaning unless it is related to the Absolute. You will not solve any problem of your life unless you are able to relate it to the Absolute. All the simple things of life will have their proper meaning only when you can relate it to God. Otherwise you will find this life is nothing but contradiction, nothing but chaos. This is the meaning of living under my eyes. We say the world is Maya. And very many of us have such a wrong notion of Maya. What is that Maya? That which has no existence. It is not there. Not that. Maya is very much there. But what is there? Life is full of contradictions, full of paradoxes. And all our life what we try to do is to resolve these contradictions on this phenomenal level. And you will never solve any problem of Maya being within Maya, within the phenomenal existence. Gita comes and tells you all these problems will find their solution and their rightful place as soon as you relate it to the absolute, to the real within you. That is why Sri Krishna tells Arjuna immediately about the self. His problem was simple problem, you see. Simple in the sense our individual desire for life, desire for property, our attachment to our relatives, attachment to our own people, to our country, all these are ordinary facts of life. If you only see this and don't see the reality behind, all these will really be a source of constant tension, constant problem. It is not mere, I am telling as if this is things a scripture has to come and tell us. No. Are we not experiencing it every day of our life? Look around the country. There are probably more people in the mental hospitals than outside. Well, why? The passions, the cravings, the desires within us are so strong, so overwhelming, that we just break down under their pressure. We don't know how to resolve them. We think when desires come, by satisfying those desires, my desires will disappear. Well, they do, for the time being. But they again arise with greater velocity, with greater strength. We have a verse somewhere in some scripture, said if you want to put out fire, and you go on feeding the fire with fuel, thinking all the time this fire will be put out, it never happens. You have to stop supplying the fuels. And that is what Gita says. If you want to overcome your desires and cravings, you have to stop somewhere. And how do we stop? Why should I stop? So long I do not break down, any amount of advice given about God or about absolute reality will not work. Even those who believe, they believe only half-hearted way. Their belief does not go deep into in their being to transform them. Transformation is change. Our inner change is the word for our spiritual life. Do we change? From the mortal being, I have to become the immortal. From death, I have to go to immortality. From darkness to light. This is a prayer in the Upanishad. Lead me, you have heard probably 1,000 times. Lead me from the unreal to the real. What is that real? Real is the self. Real is that Brahman. Real is that Atman. We go on telling, oh Lord, lead me from the unreal to the real, but never giving up our hold to the unreal. And so never able to hold the real. Well, I am reminded of a funny story told by Sri Ramakrishna. What is the story? About 4 or 5 persons drank some liquor, wine, and got somewhat intoxicated. So they came to the river bank and took the ferry boat to go across. So they were rowing the boat. Whole night passed. The morning, they get up. By that time, intoxication has come down to the normal, so-called normal levels. And they find they are exactly in the spot where they were. Probably our search or prayer, "Oh Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real," ends up mostly like this, because we don't give up the unreal and we never reach the real. Well, we may raise the question, well, how weak we are, how can we leave this of which we are sure and try to reach the other of which we are not sure? It is true. But do you really believe in the words of the scriptures? There is no other proof which can come and prove the existence of the other. All our experiences are based on our senses. And this is what is suprasensual experience. There must be a way by which we can go beyond the senses and have an experience of that. And how we will have that experience unless we even place our trust or faith in the scriptures or your teacher? It's the same thing. You call scripture or call your guru or call realized souls or call an incarnation of God. It's the same thing. They are our guide. You have to have 100% working faith. Then make the experiment yourself. They have told how you are supposed to move. And if you have trust in them, why not make experiment? In all other fields you do, why not in spiritual field also? So Gita speaks of that Brahma Vidya, which is another name, knowledge of God, knowledge of self, or knowledge of the absolute reality. Then Gita teaches how to reach that reality. It is told here as Yoga Shastra. Yoga has two meanings. Yoga is the union between the divine and the human. The individual is united with the Lord. That is the meaning of yoga. Another meaning also is the path which you follow to achieve this union. Now when Gita speaks, and all scriptures speak about God, about this unchanging eternal reality, they must show us also a way how we can reach that goal, that destination, fulfillment of the purpose of human life. There are any number of paths or ways to reach the goal. All roads lead to Rome. But they are based on certain factors in our life. See, when you are thinking of a human personality, we think of three factors in his life, in his personality. He is a thinking being, he is a feeling being, and he is also a willing being. These are the three strands of which a human personality is made up. We think, we feel, we act. It is very true. So what Hindus have done, all the different paths, any number which have been so far discovered, or any number which will be discovered in the future, all can be classified under these three heads. And they are known as what you know, the path of knowledge when it refers to your intellect, the path of bhakti or devotion when it refers to your feelings and emotions, and when it refers to your willing or acting, it is what is called path of action or karma yoga. Jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, and karma yoga. Why these paths are like this, considered to be separate? Truly speaking, you cannot separate. You may theoretically be able to separate my intellect, my emotion, and my willing. But in life, they are all together. I think, I feel, I act simultaneously. When Gita or other texts speak of these three paths. What they mean is there are certain temperamental differences. We are not all same. Some persons can be intellectually very much oriented, while some again can be very much of an emotional type of person. And then majority will be very volitional, you see. They want to be doing something all the time, restless. And so when they follow their own temperament, their own inclinations, we just say that this person is following the path of jnana. He exercises more of his intellect, more of his power of discrimination or discernment, what we call vichara. An emotional person will probably use more of his feelings and emotion and relate him to God. And a person who is extremely active by habit, who cannot so easily sit down in a temple and say, all right, let me close my eyes and go into samadhi, he cannot do. Restlessness within him will make him go for something. Meditation will be very difficult. Then what is the way for him? You have to even give him a way to escape. Escape means to find out the reality. That is karma yoga. I believe a special contribution of the Gita is karma yoga. You will find this jnana yoga, the path of knowledge, is the main trend in the Upanishads. Then bhakti, of course there is not very much bhakti in the Upanishads, though the seed is there. Though Sri Krishna speaks much about bhakti, what a true devotee of God can be or look like. But his special contribution is this about karma yoga. Well, I am not trying to minimize the importance of the other paths. Why I am trying to impress on you on this path particularly, after all, we are all very much involved in this battle of life. Activity is the most important part of our life. Well, we may remember the Lord a little once a while, go to the temple, prostrate ourselves, and say a prayer. But most of the time, we are busy in our day-to-day life. What is the special significance of this, what we call karma yoga? In what way it is different from our day-to-day karma? You would always hear karma yoga means selfless work. But I am not very sure we really understand what selfless work means. Ordinarily it means doing something for somebody else, not for myself, other than myself. If I do something for you, then it is a selfless work. If I do something for my neighbor, it is a selfless work. If I do something for my countrymen, it is a selfless work. Not necessarily. Why not necessarily? Yourself is very much present in that selfless work. You are thinking that you are doing an act of selflessness for X, for Y. You are very much present there. Your ego is very much there. Well, I have done an act of charity, you see. You feel a little enchanted, delightful, happy, because you have done a selfless act. Maybe in very subtle form, a little of recognition of your so-called selfless work you want. Maybe if your name is blazoned in the newspaper, you will feel rather happy. Does it make selfless? You may think, well, is it not much better than if I did the work for myself? Surely. I don't deny that. But it is not what is karma yoga in any case. You are still attached to your self, lower self, your ego. So one thing in karma yoga is to get rid of this ego. The sense that I am the doer of this action, and also I am the enjoyer of the fruit of this action. Both will have to be given up, which is quite a difficult task. What will happen if I don't give up? You know, Gita accepts what you call the law of karma, which was already there when Sri Krishna gave his message. So it will bring you the result, and that result will bring you birth, death, again birth and death. You are caught in this chain of birth and death, because you are not able to exhaust your karma. Sri Krishna says, well, you cannot stop working, true, but you can learn the skill of doing work in such a way that you will do. Still, the result won't come to you. First thing is, don't think you are the doer. Give up your ego sense there. I am the doer. You are nothing. Who are you to do? Lord is the doer. Lord does everything. You are his instrument. Gita says, Nimitta matram bhava sadvasachim. Be merely my instrument. What can you do? All these things which you see, I have already done and I will do. But I am giving you the privilege to become my instrument. Again, don't feel that you are a privileged person because you are given the privilege. Be very sure. Don't fall a trap to even to the Lord's telling you are my instrument. You will begin to think, well, I am better than the other person, you see. If he has chosen you now, next minute he may throw you away and may choose. He may take dust from the earth and make hundreds of Arjunas. He can create his own instruments. And as soon as you are able to give up the sense of this doership, then how can the result be yours? The result can be yours only when you say, I am the doer. If you have not done the work, how can the result come to you? Automatically it follows the result goes to him who is the doer. Who is the doer? Lord is the doer. Result also goes to him. Work is not barren, you see. Work produces result. You are working in the garden, employed by the owner of the garden. You grow fruits, you grow flowers, you grow so many vegetables and things. To whom all these things belong? Owner of the garden. Well, he may throw at you a few crumbs, but still everything belongs to him. Nothing belongs to you. Even your own body, mind, self does not belong to you. Everything belongs to the Lord. When that sense will come, then whatever you do, you will never do for your own self. You may raise a pertinent question. What is the pertinent question? Question is, what will be the motivation of my work? Why should I work? If the result does not come to me, and I don't have at least the feeling I have done something good, even that you don't allow, then why should I work? Why should I act? So here Sri Krishna comes. You do out of love for God and for the glory of the Lord. Don't be very gullible telling I love God. And when doing something for him comes, don't claim that you do. Do for the love of God. If you really love God, you will do everything for him. I funnily say that if you love the woman, you will love his dog or her dog also, you see. That's the way. So it is that. Brahmani adhaya karma sangam taktva karoti yah. Gita says, offer everything to Brahman. Then, sangam taktva, give up all attachment. Attachment to yourself, attachment to the results, everything you have to give up. Just be a perfect instrument in the hands of the Lord. The feeling, oh Lord, let thy will be done. In that spirit, if you work, then it will become really karma, yoga. Otherwise, simply giving $5 to a person or doing a little so-called charitable work does not make it karma yoga. So long you have the sense of, well, I am doing some noble work, good work, that also is a bondage. Maybe on baser stage, it may be an iron chain, and this may be a golden chain, but golden chain does not bind anywhere less, rather more, because gold is considered too precious, you see, valuable in your eyes. So, noble acts also are acts which cause bondage. You have to go beyond the phenomenal, you see. Nobler acts proceed from what we call sattva guna, the pure state of our being. But that pure state also is within the phenomenal existence. You have to reach beyond the phenomenal, beyond the relative. So there, you have to forget of yourself. How do I do it? I don't know. No one can say how you can go from the phenomenal to the transcendent. It just happens. If you have prepared all the ground and keep yourself open, it just happens. God realization does not come because I have done this or I have done that. Well, I have repeated Lord's name 5,000 times every morning and 5,000 times every evening. I have been taking so many nice sweets and fruits to the temple, prostrating to the Swami every day. That does not ensure your liberation. That does not ensure your experience of your reality. That makes you fit to receive. That's all. How do you know how to go from the relative to the absolute? There is no way of knowing it. It just happens. That means you cannot induce what you call mystical experiences. You cannot say, all right, let me go to dreamless sleep now. Who knows that you will not get dream? But suppose your mind is composed. Suppose you are free from all struggle, tensions, you have rested well, all impure thoughts have been removed, even so-called pure thoughts also no longer there. Then when you go to sleep, there is every chance you may have a sound sleep. So there comes the question of divine grace. Phrase it in any way you like. It only means what is humanly possible you can do. And leave it for the divine in you to work out the rest. Yamemba Isha Birnute, as it is said. And Sri Krishna puts it in the Gita, give yourself up completely to me. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja aham tva sarva pavebhya mokshayishyami ma shucha. Give up everything to me. Everything to me. Without any reservations. Sarva dharman. And then take refuge in me alone. Be very careful about that word alone. Forget all other things. Nothing else exists. All that exists is the Lord alone. And I completely take shelter under Him and Him alone. Then Sri Krishna says, well, I will save you. If you believe in this divine promise, and if you are really in a position to give up everything for the sake of the Lord, there is no doubt the Lord within you, the reality within you will manifest. And when that is manifested, what comes to you? what happens to you? We say you become a knower of the self, knower of truth, knower of God, a lover of God. All these are different words used. Gita gives you beautiful pictures of these knowers of God. They are phrased differently in different chapters, context being different. It begins with the second chapter, where the characteristics of a sthita prajna is mentioned. Sthita prajna means a person who is established in steady wisdom. Wisdom is. And certain characteristics are mentioned. Then again you will find in another chapter the characteristics of a yoga rudha is mentioned. He who is established in yoga. Then in another chapter you will find, and also in many other places, the characteristics of a jnani, a person who has known the truth through the path of knowledge or jnana. Then 12th chapter speaks of the true bhakta, true devotee. Then in another chapter you have the characteristic marks of a gunatita, a person who has gone beyond the three gunas. And three gunas make up your phenomenal existence. That means who has transcended this phenomenal existence. How does he behave? How does he talk? How does he sit? All these are spoken in all these chapters. We should read and find out. In one word we say they are generally known in later Vedanta as Jivan Mukta. A person who has realized the truth here and now in this embodied condition. When you are still living in your body, you have known what the truth is. It is not post-mortem liberation. Who knows what will happen to us after we are in the grave? Here and now I must experience what my true being is. If I have not experienced it, what guarantee is there that something is going to happen in so-called heaven or somewhere else? Don't wait for something to happen. Do it here and now. You should be able to tell like Arjuna, you see. After Sri Krishna has spoken what he had to say, then after telling this, Sri Krishna said, well, I have told you whatever I had to say. Reflect on them and do what you think best for you. See, I take this very significant. Why? You should be able to decide your own good. Don't want to be spoon-fed, you see. I will come and say, well, do this, then only God will come to you, you see. I have told you what is good, what is bad, what is evil, what is... All this I have explained to the best of my knowledge. I have related to all the problems of the psychophysical being, how the senses will have to be controlled, how the mind will have to be controlled, how you have to relate yourself to this world of change, of attachment. All these things I have outlined threadbare before you. And I have also pointed out how you can go beyond them. Reflect. He does not say simply accept what I say. Very often we think just, all right, sir, you have said, I accept it. Once Sri Ramakrishna was talking to one gentleman, and another person was seated there. And this gentleman was raising argument after argument. And the other person got somewhat annoyed. He said, well, why do you argue? Can't you accept what Sri Ramakrishna says? Then Sri Ramakrishna just chastised him. Why should you accept my words unless he is convinced? Buddha says the same thing. Don't accept. Simply some book has said so. Simply because it is an old text. or simply because it has come in your tradition. Examine everything. After examining, if you think it is acceptable, it is rational, well, you can give a trial to it, then don't raise any more questions. Then be busy doing what you are supposed to be doing. And Buddha says, even don't accept if I say. Very few teachers in world history has told this. Even don't accept my words. Sri Krishna says here, do whatever you think good for you. I have told you everything. Now, what Arjuna replies, this is the last verse which Arjuna's saying ends there. He says, Nashta moha smitir labdha tvat prasadat mayachyuta sthitosi gata sandeha karishye vachanam tapa. First thing he said is, Nashta moha. It means, my delusion is destroyed. See, that destruction of the delusion has to come. After you have heard and read the whole of the Gita and still living a deluded life, then still you have to go on. You have not yet come to the state where Arjuna could say, my delusion is gone. Most of our life goes through illusion and delusions. Very few really go beyond them. Then he says, Smriti Labdha. What does it mean? I have regained my memory. What memory? All those things which I did to other people and other people did to me. Not this memory, you see, he's not speaking of this memory. He has now known what his true being is. That is the memory. So long he thought he was Arjuna, born in a Kshatriya family, engaged in this battle of Kurukshetra, which will bring him part of the kingdom, this and that. This is how he thought himself. Now he has understood that he is the pure self, beyond birth and death. He is one with the divine. This is the knowledge which has come to him. That is the smriti which has come back. That means he has known what his true being is. And that is the search. So he has come to the end of his search. So smriti labdha. How it has come? Tat prasadat mayachyuta. It is by your grace. That does not mean you have to sit quiet in a corner and do nothing. No grace will come. Even if it comes, you won't be able to receive that grace unless you keep yourself ready for the grace. Sri Ramakrishna said, keep the sail unfurled so that the wind of grace is caught. So it is just like that. Then what Arjuna says, two words, very significant. Sthitosi. What is the meaning? I have become now firm, steady, unmoving. How many of us are firm and steady and unmoving? Our mind is so much always doubt, assail us completely. So he says, Gata Sandeha. That means my doubt is gone. No more doubt will rise. If you have known what your true being is, if you know you are the pure self, you no more think that you are not that. So long you are deluding yourself that you are something else. And when true knowledge has come, that delusion is gone. You have known what you are. So Arjuna says, I will do now what you say. At the beginning he did not say that. Now he says, I will do what you say. Now I can say, Arjuna will say, well, Lord, I can now say, let thy will be done, not my will. Now I will completely surrender to the divine will. All my resistance, all my doing something as it were, is dispelled and gone. Now I become a perfect instrument in the hand of the Lord. This is what I understand in sum and substance the teachings of the Gita. Thank you very much.
Friends, We are very thankful to the Swami to come to our place and giving a very thoughtful, beautiful and inspiring talk on the Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes I feel that I should hear more from others because it opens various views, various angles of the Bhagavad Gita. I am giving the class on the Bhagavad Gita, and we have heard a beautiful talk. He summarized the whole Bhagavad Gita in such a beautiful way. I was really very much impressed. Swami will leave tomorrow morning to Atlanta and then North Carolina, Iowa and other places, and then he will visit our East Coast centers, Boston and New York, then via London and Paris. We have centers there too. He will go back to India. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karavabhai Tejasvina Badhitamastu Ma Vitveshavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihim. May Brahman protect us, may he guide us, may he give us strength and right understanding. May love and harmony be with us all. Peace, peace, peace.